And next up, we have got the fabulous Kim Tuohy and Hannah Grennan, and they're going to be talking about human-centered design. Go for it, girls.
What is up, everybody? It is Kim Tuohy here, and with me, we have Hannah Grennan. We're so excited. Hannah's going to be playing a client today, and I'm going to be your learning designer. Now, people of the audience, it is 3:45 a.m. where we are, so we want your energy. We want your comments and questions pumping through. We're going to say a big shout out to some friends in the audience, Emma, Nicole, Nate, Mike, and Ashanti. How you doing? We see you, we appreciate you, and we look forward to more stuff coming your way. Open the chat window if you haven't got it open already. Thanks for the energy. I love it. Make sure you're sharing to all panelists and attendees so we can see, because we're going to have some interaction going down. All right, let's get into what we're up to. Now, the key to human-centered design is to put the people that you are designing for at the heart of your solution. You want people saying things like, our CEO was over the moon. This was so useful. It worked around me and my time, and I could spend time on information that was important to me. Basically, as learning designers, we want to meet project goals, design solutions that create high return on investment through behavior change, develop solutions that make a difference to the lives of your learners, and organizational objectives. You do this by speaking to them, listening, having an open mind, and not assuming that you know what they need. So let's take a look at an example. Would you ever go to a restaurant and have them pick your order for you? Most likely not. What if you were vegetarian and they gave you meat? Or what if you were allergic to something that they gave you? Would you eat it? Just like in this example, your learners don't want to consume something they haven't ordered. You need to seek first to understand. Stephen Covey reference for anyone that's interested. So why should we care about the people that we're designing for? Well, they are the levers for change. If they change their behavior, they will help you meet your project goal. So you need to put them at the heart of everything you do. Our team has been experimenting with human-centered design for years, testing and refining, and these are the steps that work for us to achieve results. We are going to show you how to apply them to your projects. So let's have a look at step 1, which is determine your goal. All right, it's really important to make sure that you are working on the right goal. As we proceed through this step, chuck your questions in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the step. We're going to do that through each of the 3 steps we visit today. All right. Bring, bring. You receive a call from a stakeholder.
Hey, I just wanted to have a quick chat. I'm wondering if you can help. We're receiving so many complaints from customers recently. We really need our call center staff to have better empathy with them.
Now, before you move forward as a learning designer with this as a project goal, stop. As a learning designer, I'm asking myself, is this really the problem? Sounds kind of fishy. Or could there be other things contributing? There could be many issues leading to unhappy customers. For example, empathy is a subset of communication. What communication skills are the employees missing? Employees are providing advice before seeking to understand what the customer needs could be one of the examples. Or is it that the phone line is bad and customers can't hear the employee who is doing their best to support the caller? Or is there a problem with the service being offered? For example, the price might be too high and another service provider can do the same thing cheaper. It is your responsibility to help your stakeholders solve the right problem. You do this by asking questions and involving the right people in this discussion. So, let's say a stakeholder comes to you with the following problem.
We need to train our staff to reduce patient abuse in our hospitals.
This is a scenario we'll use throughout the session. You'll need to call a workshop, hey? It's your kickoff meeting, or we'll call it a creative conversation. During this creative conversation with your stakeholders, there are 5 questions to ask that will apply to this client's problem. This is based on a real project that we've worked on. So, hello, Hannah, my little friend, my little employee. Welcome to my creative conversation here. I got some 5 questions I'd like to ask you. First one, what is the desired user experience?
Well, we really need our workers to feel comfortable and I would say confident as well in identifying and reducing patient abuse in our hospitals.
And what's important to the business?
I would say reducing cases of patient abuse in hospitals, and probably also for them and for us as a business, it's important for patients to feel secure and safe.
Cool. So as I'm going along, I'm collecting all these insights from Hannah and the other people in my creative conversation. I'll continue with my next question. What is important to the user?
I think for our workers, they would need to know how to handle patient abuse. And for them, it's important for them to protect their patients.
What are the current pain points?
I would probably say that our employees don't always know that patient abuse is happening. So that would be one. And I think they also wouldn't know what to do if they suspected it was happening.
Interesting. And what is the ultimate goal that you're trying to achieve?
What we really need to do is we need to reduce instances of patient abuse in our hospitals.
So asking these questions considers all perspectives, gains buy-in, and gets you clearer to the direction of where you're headed from relevant stakeholders. Your stakeholder may include subject matter experts, project sponsors, the people that you are designing for, your budget controller, basically anyone that may say no at any point throughout the project. You don't always have access to them, but you should at least give them the opportunity to be involved. The answers to those 5 questions, as seen on the sticky notes previously, allows you to collate the answers and form a 1-sentence objective. This is your project goal, or what we call a success statement. You might want to make it smart or have your own approach to identifying goals. Do whatever works for you. What is important is that you create your success statement or goal during your creative conversation with your stakeholders so that everyone agrees on it. It is used throughout the project to guide your decision making. For example, at a later date, if a stakeholder wants to add content to the solution, that would never happen, would it? But you need to ask them, will this content help us achieve our success statement? If it doesn't, leave it out. And because they were there when you agreed on the success statement, leaving something out that doesn't meet the success statement is easier. For further learning, Google "how might we" statements for different approaches to this. The creative conversation, including agreeing on a success statement, takes us about 1 hour with clients. So no excuses. I like that you're my cheer squad laughing beside me.
I'm laughing for you.
Thanks. I hope you're laughing in there. Now that you have your success statement, it is time to make it happen. Understanding how to change the behavior of the people that you are designing for is the next step. If the people that you are designing for change their behavior in alignment with your success statement, you will meet your project goal. So, legends that make up the audience, tell us, what are the consequences of not having a project goal? Type your answers into the chat and we will give you 30 seconds to party.
Okay, so the chat has been going off. Thank you for everyone's participation. Absolutely nailing it. So we've got, Greg has said disaster all around. I love that one. We've got Ashanti, scope creep, Leonard, scope creep. Stress for you, stress for them from Rebecca, lost money, no direction, not having a goal, too many revisions, never arriving at a solution.
Misery.
Misery, I love that. Too large of a scope and indecisiveness. So we've got some great responses there. Too large of a scope, nothing to assist in refocusing the client, waste of your time, client's time, and the audience time.
I like it.
We've got some good responses there. Well done, audience.
Thank you for your active participation. Moving on. All right, so let's summarize step 1. Basically, before you begin a project, ask yourself, am I working towards the right goal? Hold a creative conversation with your stakeholders. Create a success statement.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at questions that have come through from the audience for step 1. So what have we got here, Kim? So Greg has said, how do you manage a high volume of training requests? We're pushing back about identifying real problems before jumping to solve the problem is met with impatience or indifference.
I think our internet's cutting out now. We must move on very quickly. No. I think it's about prioritizing for me. You wouldn't things are hard. You can't always solve all problems. So pushing back, prioritizing, asking people what is the most important, what's leading to the strategic objectives, what's aligning to them. It's not, I guess it's kind of what Emily was saying as well, as saying no. You don't have to have all the answers. And are you needing to push back on decision makers? But I'd love people to jump in the chat and give their perspective as well on that.
We also have another question from Nate. So Nate has said, do we get to deal with what happens when your real life Hannah doesn't have those answers? Or when, and Karen has added, or when different Hannahs contradict each other? Has that ever happened, Kim, in our experience?
No, we always have lovely Hannahs.
It's always perfect.
But Nates and Karens can be brats too. No. No, they do contradict each other, and that's based on their experience as a user, and that's all valid data. So I guess what you start identifying is what's more common or what themes are coming through, and why is that the case for one person and why is it not the case for someone else. So it just means that you got to go deeper and investigate, ask more questions. Why is always a great question. I think Kathy Moore was talking about what if as well. So really, you got to explore it. It is data. What does it actually mean? And what does it mean in relation to your success statement?
Love it. Emma's added get sign off from all Hannahs before moving on, which I think is...
Yeah.
Go, Emma. Good point.
Emma.
Okay, so we have another question from Karen. How do you work with resistance against analysis and taking time to determine goals and needs?
Karen, well, you see, that creative conversation does really only take an hour. So I feel if you can pull the people into the room and make that happen, there's really no excuse, because an hour is nothing and it has so much of an impact on the project and the goal that you're trying to achieve. We all know that we've sat in meetings that have been longer than an hour that have been a waste of time. So can I explain that to your boss? Yeah, give me their number, Karen. I'll ring them. But it is just about making sure you're all on the same page. If you have to do this kind of stuff and ask those questions via email, at least you're giving them the opportunity to say what they need to say. And if they don't respond to your email, well, you've given them that opportunity. And when they push back at a later time, that's up to them. That's their problem.
Great. Moving on, Kim.
Alrighty. Okay, step 2, everybody. It's time to discover. So you've got your goal. How do you change the behavior of the people that you are designing for? Well, you need to know why they are not doing it now. What makes it hard and what makes it challenging? This may sound familiar to some of you instructional designers because it is aligned to Kathy Moore's action mapping, which is a great blog that you should check out. Human-centered design and action mapping are really complementary. So the first of 3 activities we're sharing today is user interviews. This involves going to the people you are designing for and asking them questions to help you understand their world in order to meet the success statement. We've identified 6 questions that get us the information we need, which we will drop into the chat for you now, so you can copy and paste them and keep them for a later date. So you ask these 6 questions to a variety of users. We kind of go for about 5 to 10 people. After that, it kind of gets a bit hectic, but it obviously depends on the project that you're trying to solve. And these 5 to 10 people are people that will ultimately contribute to undertaking the success statement in their role. We do this to identify how to achieve the success statement from their perspective. So let's see how it plays out. As the learning designer, I'm going to have a chat with some employees at the hospital. Let's go check in on Hannah. Hey, Hannah. Thanks for chatting with me today. We're working with your organization to improve the level of care provided by hospital workers to reduce patient abuse. I'd love to get your perspective to shape a solution that will help improve the experience of patients at this hospital. So, to start, do you believe that it is important to reduce patient abuse, and why?
Oh, definitely. I would say personally, the patients, they're in our care. We're there to protect them. And for me, I would say that we're their advocate.
So I'm just gathering some insights from Hannah. In relation to reducing patient abuse, what makes it challenging to achieve now?
If I think about it, I think the main thing is not realizing the signs. So if you don't know the patient well, you might not know if something's not quite right. So if you did know them, potentially you'd say something like that's not like them. But yeah, if you didn't know that, it could lead to problems or neglect.
More insights from Hannah. What situations or scenarios do you face relevant to patient abuse?
I think like I don't see people or anyone doing it on purpose. So it's probably more when my coworkers are rushed. So for example, they might say, I'll just give them a quick wash rather than taking their time.
Do you believe that you know how to reduce patient abuse?
Yeah, I would say I do.
And how would you do that, Hannah?
I think for me, it's about building rapport. So I like to become really familiar with my patients. So I think I'd adopt more of a friendly approach, sort of act like their best friend, listen to them, get to know them. And this is something that the supervisors in my section encourage as well.
Cool. Do you believe that you have the skills to reduce patient abuse?
Yes, I think so. I think if I did notice it, I would report it. So I'd say to the patient, I'll go and speak to someone now, and then I would go and report it.
Cool. And last question. Do you believe that your environment supports reducing patient abuse?
Yeah, absolutely. I would go straight to the manager if I saw anything like that. They're always there to support with things like that.
So Hannah, as the employee, how did you feel being asked these questions?
It felt good. It felt like you cared about my experience and what I know. I felt important. It felt like I was contributing to something that matters. And I also liked that you didn't judge my responses.
Cool. Well, the answers to these 6 questions gives you the language to use in your solution to motivate the learner, demonstrate what's in it for them, and they provide realistic examples from their specific workplace and the actions to deal with them, including any gray areas. For each project and its accompanying success statement, you change the language slightly to these questions. Today, we're only sharing one of Hannah's answers, but you get a heap of insights to each question and you keep going basically until the employee has said all that they need to say. Now, Emma has asked, what if Hannah doesn't agree that it's a concern? And that happens. And that's why what we're getting here is it's all about motivation, really. So we need to understand why Hannah number 2, we can call her version 2.0, the evil Hannah. If she doesn't, that's okay. That's valid too. So we want to understand why. And we just ask why, basically 5 whys. But we are going to understand a bit more about that version Hannah 2.0 in a bit. So these questions, they really do give you fantastic insights in the context of how the success statement plays out in the real world. And we recommend allocating about 15 to 30 minutes for each interview that you do. So it's chat time. Reflect on the benefits of interviewing the people that you are designing for. By doing this, how might you solve the problem better?
Okay, so we've had some comments come in from the audience. I can see Nate has said you'll get best practice tips, maybe something that a leader wouldn't think about. I love that. Nicole has said you get the experience they're having and can focus on the challenges that are difficult for them rather than the ones managers imagine exist. That's really good. You're establishing the root cause. Managers often think they've identified the issue, but they might not have. You get perspective, 100%. What else have we got? More support from users. Tell me about rather than asking why from Leonard. Helps the people tell a story rather than answer a question. And 100%, Chris, in tune with your audience's true needs. That is a big part of human-centered design. Love it. Thank you, everyone, for your input.
Okay, so there's some other activities to help you empathize with the people that you are designing for. A persona, which you may have already played with, is one. Personas are a great way to bring everything you know about the people, not everything, but like a lot more than if you didn't do it, that you are designing for together in one place. They answer the question, who are we designing for? Personas humanize your learners. So here's an example we've prepared earlier for the scenario we're working through. Grab your owl phones out there and take a photo and adapt it for yourselves. It's also available in the app for you to download. But there are heaps and heaps of versions on the internet. For example, HubSpot has a great interactive one to get you started. If you Google HubSpot Make My Persona, and the link will be dropped into the comments for you now. And we recommend allocating about 20 minutes for each persona. And the reason we're trying to share the times with you is to say that this work doesn't have to kill you. It doesn't have to take up too much time. It's just the emphasis of actually doing it and the importance and the value that it brings. So moving on, a human-centered design tool that our team finds really valuable is an empathy map. Of all the activities, this to us is the most valuable if you don't have time for anything else. Empathy mapping helps us align what the people we are designing for say, do, think, and feel when they have achieved the success statement. We look at what we want these people to do from the future desired state, not their current state. Now, this will come back to what you were talking about, Emma, before, where Hannah was a brat. So considering the future desired state helps us to achieve performance standards and creates a benchmark for where employees need to be. Look, you can't change all humans, but you can sway the majority to where you want them to be. If you look at it from a rough breakdown of 33% of high-performing employees, 33% as followers, and 33% being resistant, well, we believe in not focusing on the resistant or those that can't be changed. they will hurt your head. If you focus on the high performing, well, basically you'll be able to sway the followers over to them because they will be role modeling. Helping 66% of your employees get to where they need to be. That's pretty good success, I would say. We point this out not as a rule, but because we often hear from people that they get caught up trying to change those that will never change in their organization. Ain't nobody got time for that. So ideally, you would have your stakeholders from your creative conversation involved in the empathy map activity. If you have invited them to be involved and they can't make it, do it with who is available, even if that is just you. So let's run through an empathy map for the example that we have been working through. So we'll bring back Hannah and get her perspective on achieving our success statement. So Hannah, if there was no patient abuse whatsoever, what would you see around the hospital?
I guess all of the patients would be happy. And I think another thing would be workers would be noticing if patient abuse was happening.
Okay, and if patient abuse wasn't happening, what would people be feeling?
I think what they would be feeling, the workers would be saying or thinking that they're there to protect their patients. So that would be their mindset. And also that they're their advocate.
Nice. And so as we go through, we're just collecting the insights that the people that are contributing to the empathy map into the different categories. So if patient abuse wasn't happening, what would you hear around the place?
I think it would be a common thing to hear workers checking in on the patients to make sure that they're okay and happy.
Cool. And what would you be seeing people do or hearing them say?
I think, like what I said before, checking in on patients would be something that's happening, and also reporting it if they did see it, just to stop it from happening.
Okay, so basically you can see that these examples are quite action focused, and to help us keep it action or decision focused, concentrating on the need to know content rather than the nice to know content, ask yourself and your stakeholders, if you were a fly on the wall, what would you see the person do? This stops people from saying, we want them to understand the policy on XYZ. How can you tell that they understand it? Instead, refocus them. Ask, what would it look like if they were a fly on the wall and saw them act in a way that demonstrated that they understand the policy? That is a successful empathy map right there. So if you want to take a photo, grab it. Don't have any selfies. We got no time for that. You can add it to your notes later. An empathy map with stakeholders, probably around 5 to 6 stakeholders, takes about 30 minutes to complete. This is very valuable tool, so we definitely recommend that you do it. But upon completing an empathy map, you will walk away with the future desired state behaviors required from your learners to help you achieve your success statement. Reflecting people of the audience on empathy maps. How might they benefit the problem you are trying to solve? Take a moment to share your thoughts in the chat.
Okay, the chat has been on fire. Good on you, everyone. So we've got from Karen, not neglecting important angles. Awesome. Staying action focused. From Ashanti, we've got help with writing action-orientated learning objectives. 100% agree with that. It makes it so easy. I love the fly on the wall, action-based. Decrease abstraction. Sharon has said, make sure you hit all the points that matter. Emma guides the conversation. Amanda eliminates assumptions. We've got some amazing comments coming in.
We love you, audience. Thank you for participating. All right. Let's move on. Now, With all of the activities you undertake as a learning designer to achieve your success statement, continually ask yourself, do I have what I need to reach my project goal? If you don't, get that information. Exhaust the activities and actions you undertake to ensure that you have what you need to achieve the success statement. Let's summarize step 2. Ask, why is it not happening now? Conduct some human-centered design activities. We've shown you 3, but there are heaps on the internet, which you can Google in your own time. And ask, do I have what I need to reach my project goal?
Okay, so looking at questions at the end of the Discover step, we have a question from Nicole. Nicole has asked, what if they're afraid to admit what's happening? I'd be scared to say I've committed patient abuse.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, I don't think they would probably actually be in the interviews. What we found is it was interesting because when we did this, the company didn't want to have the employees interviewed by themselves. So they put a HR person in the interview, and we were like, okay, well, that's a major red flag. And that actually indicates to us that there are trust issues in this organization. So that was quite interesting. But when we went in, it didn't work out like that. They were just so passionate and wanting to be involved, and it didn't influence it. But what we try to do is it's in the people that you choose to get insights from. So you get to, if you ask for a wide selection, basically, I don't think you can ever find out all the answers, but you get themes coming through. You can kind of sense things. That's where you're paying attention to body language and stuff. There might be resistance. They might be quiet. And I think you just got to take note of those things. If you do start to notice those things from one person, you do have to kind of go put your detective hat on and figure out, do we need to do more interviews? Because what has that shown up for us? And explore and see if it's just one maybe disgruntled employee or something like that. But the good people, because you interview such a wide range, and normally you would have high performers in there, they are the ones that I want to say they'll tell, but they don't really do it in that way, but they do share insights that gives you clues that, okay, we need to do some more work in here. All right, let's move on to step 3. Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. So step 3 is basically create a high-level strategy. When you have collected the information that you need, you can generate a list of insights obtained during your discovery or analysis. These insights will support you to design a product or solution that is fit for purpose and meets the needs of the user. Through the work that you have completed, you look at the data that you have collected and identify common themes. These common themes will help you prepare a high-level strategy. Now, you are probably going to be familiar with this. Let's take a look at an example of pulling everything we've worked on together so far into our high-level strategy. You can see that we have our success statement front of mind to continuously hold us accountable. Then we are able to identify the learning objectives. You all know what those are. And we use Bloom's taxonomy to do this. So we focus where possible at the top of the triangle to achieve the higher cognitive outcomes, because this is where behavior change better occurs. If you don't know Bloom's taxonomy, check out the link that we're popping into the chat now and go explore it for yourself. And the learning objectives are inspired from the activities that you take in step 2. Then basically you can map the content that you have identified from your user interviews and empathy maps to each learning objective. And from there, you can identify how to train each component. So it might be a checklist, it might be e-learning, it might be an intranet page, it might be face-to-face, it might be a buddy or mentoring. Your high-level strategy basically becomes your overarching plan for your solution. You no longer need to Google or find other sources to get your content and start from a blank canvas. This has been obtained from the work you've done, which we've taken you through today. This human-centered design approach means we are never writing anything from scratch ever again. And look, I say this because if you're continuously asking yourself, do I have what I need as a learning designer to reach my project goal? You should by now have what you need. Through your feedback review process with your stakeholders, you're not always going to get it right. So that's why you do reviews with your stakeholders. And that's where you're able to refine it and get the appropriate language and context or any gaps that are missing. So basically now it's up to you to massage the content you have into the outputs that you're familiar with, such as your storyboards, your scripts, scenarios, and activities. You'll know what to do from here. So let's summarize step 3. Review your insights and identify themes, map your insights into a high-level strategy, and ask yourself, does this meet the success statement?
Okay, so we have no questions that have come through, but please, if you have any questions, send them through and Kim and I can answer them at the end. So continue on, Kim.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Hannah's gotten very bossy now that she's not the employee. Okay, so these are our step 3 or 3 steps just to summarize. You'll work out your own activities as you kind of get through your craft and you experiment. So you got determine your goal, discover, and then create a high-level strategy. So we encourage you to experiment with human-centered design. It helps you to meet your project needs and goals. It helps you design solutions that create high return on investment through behavior change and develop solutions that make a difference to the lives of your learners and organizational objectives. Here's what some of your peers are saying about applying this process to their projects. As we get ready for a quick Q&A before we run out of time, jump into the chat and let people know the one action you commit to take and implement post our session. Let's get this transfer of learning happening. There are heaps and heaps of things online, basically, to learn more about human-centered design. Go to YouTube, places like IDEO, IDEO. There's another company called AJ and Smart. They have some great stuff. They're actually from like the product design world, but there's so many transferable skills that you can use. But yeah, let's have a look. There's some questions.
Question time. Okay, so we have a question from Emma. Can I experiment with one part of the process or do I have to do all of them? What do you think, Kim?
I'd love to know your opinion.
So we think that you don't need to do all of the processes. So there are so many different processes you can take for human-centered design. You don't need to do them all. You just, as long as you step into the shoes of your end user in some way or form. So whether that's a persona, whether that's empathy mapping, our team personally finds empathy mapping the most valuable for our solutions. It really helps us to create a solution that meets the needs of our end user. So my answer would be you can just experiment with one part of the process. You don't need to do all of it. What do you think, Kim?
I agree. You don't always have time. You don't always have the budget. So yeah, whatever you can do is what you want to do. Now we noticed Karen has a question. How do you convince your managers that this will benefit return on investment? Hannah, do you remember the role play we did?
Yes, we have done a role play on this.
Okay, so we did a role play. Hannah was the employee and I was her boss.
Yeah.
What was I wasn't convinced. I said, nope, I've got KPIs. I need you to just deliver what I told you.
Yep. So human-centered design, it actually really helps you to solve your project goal. When you think about it, the people that need to change their behavior are your end users. And if they change their behavior, you're more likely to meet your project goal. So if you can explain that to your manager and say, look, if we want to solve this goal, these people need to change their behavior. And in order to do that, we need to understand them. So if you meet your project goal, that is going to have better return on investment, I think. So I think that's something that you can really, make clear to your manager that it's worth putting in the time. And you also don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Like we said before, you can just choose one part of the process as long as you put effort into thinking about who that end user is.
Yeah. I would say as well, Karen, think about the benefits. So basically write that at the top of your page, benefits. What are all the benefits if I did this process? And then on the next column, what are the consequences? What are all the consequences if I don't do this right? Will it be a waste of time? Will we spend money on the wrong problem? So what you're doing there is you're preparing for that conversation with your boss, so that when they say, we don't have time or we can't spend money doing that, what you can say is you have time to basically overcome their objections because you've pre-planned for that conversation. And when you overcome those objections, you're able to say, yep, I get it, but I just want you to trust me on this, what I think, and you express your plan based on what you figured out through looking at the benefits and the objections.
We have another question from Emma. Emma has said the discovery phase can take some time. How do you plan for and quote for this?
I would say, so for us, the discovery phase, it's all starting to kind of become a system, I guess. The discovery for us can be done within 5 days on average. So just depending on, if a project is 10% or 20% bigger or smaller than the average that we've been working on recently, we can figure that out. So if 5 days is the core, well, then we know how to quote for something like that and we know the effort.
And we have a question from Nirad. He has said references for empathy mapping. So it's on the internet. You could literally just search empathy mapping. Even if you search empathy mapping and look at images in Google, you'll see the format of an empathy map. And basically you can just use that. Also YouTube as well. So search empathy mapping on YouTube and people will run you through the process. It's all out there.
Yeah.
Nate, look for it.
You cheeky brat. You can look, if you have a look, we've given you 20 minutes for activities, 15 minutes, 1 hour. You can make it happen in one day. So every boss will love you, Nate. Thank you everybody for being part of our session. We really appreciate the interactivity.
Amazing crowd.
Yeah, thanks homies. We appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks everyone. Legends.